in your neighborhood, in your street, there are people who's probably next door to you who do not have enough food to eat. They're suffering quietly. And we as a community need to stand up for them and stand up for a better community. The world has enough wealth to make sure everybody in this world has 2 good meals to eat. Still, we have so many people going hungry.
Hey everybody, it's Danielle Thompson with Broadcaster Authority. I'm here with the amazing Suman Roy with the Zero Hunger Project. I'm so excited that you were able to make it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Zero Hunger Project.
Absolutely. So in the beginning of pandemic, when everything was shutting down, literally in my backyard, I got some neighbors together and figured out that people will need help and we need to feed people. So like anybody would do, we put some money on the table, went to the grocery store, picked up some food, and then we started distributing. Now that has grown in the last 5 years to a place where we serve over 8,500 people every week with access to food. We have 15 full-time staff. We have 482 volunteers every week. So it's just ballooned. But when we have the conversation about hunger, I realized that very quickly that just handing out food or just localizing to Toronto or Scarborough, that doesn't solve the problem. There needs to be bigger conversations. So I was very fortunate that last year I was an official Canadian delegate at the United Nations on the high-level political forum on sustainable development goals. So I started listening to the conversation that was happening globally from various countries on the zero hunger and the goal of achieving zero hunger by 2030. And a couple of things really had light bulbs in my head. One was most of the conversation was happening was between governments of different countries. The impact from grassroots organizations globally was missing in that conversation. So that was my first light bulb. That what can we do to bring the voice of the local grassroots organization to a place like the United Nations or the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome. So we formed this coalition of organizations called the Zero Hunger Project. And that is where we have grassroots organizations globally contributing, sharing ideas. We help them build their capacity. So that is the organization part of it. But also we need to have conversations because just the grassroots will not solve the problem. We need policy level change. So with our podcast of the Zero Hunger Project, we have policymakers from around the world, influential folks who has actually done some amazing stuff in their country that goes towards zero hunger. They come to our podcast as guests and we have these conversations. We have these chats about what is zero hunger and what will it take to attain zero hunger by 2030. Food is a human right. But however, so many people goes to bed hungry. Let's talk about United States. Today, in the United States, 14% of population does not have enough food to eat.
Wow.
For a country that is that rich, country that has got wealth, that suddenly makes no sense. Canada is not that far behind. We are 12%. But still, it is a significant number. So when the global north countries, the developed countries, are not having these conversations on food insecurity and hunger, how do we expect to solve the problem? So with the Zero Hunger Project, we are highlighting those conversations. Is how can we, sitting in Toronto, sitting in Las Vegas, sitting in Washington, D.C., sitting in New York, what can we do collectively, whether it is advocating to your governments, having conversations with your neighbors? What can we do to solve this issue of the basic human right?
So what were some of the solutions you guys came up with?
So there's quite a lot of solutions that is being done in different parts. I wish that could be all in one country to have that solution.
For sure.
We know Brazil did a fantastic job a few decades ago in going towards zero hunger. The current president of Brazil was a leader in that area, and they have done a great job on food security. We know that countries like, let's say, Finland, they have done fantastic job on the school food program.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that as a Canadian, I'm very proud to say that after a lot of work on advocacy and policy development, last year was the first time Government of Canada actually came up with a school food policy and actually invested funds towards a school food policy. We were the only G7 who didn't have that. So these kind of conversations we are having. The other big one is post-secondary institutions.
Mm-hmm.
That post-secondary institutions having a ramen for the post-secondary student or the university student, that is not food security.
Yeah.
And however, we have fantasized that, the poor, hungry student. And that contributes towards a global problem. If nobody can study well in a hungry stomach. So these are the kind of conversations we have in that podcast. We have some amazing guests who have already come, and we have some commitments of some amazing guests coming over the next little while who are in the powers, who has the powers to make a difference. And they are. And we are having those conversations on how they are making the difference. What can they do better, and how can we advocate across the globe to do better?
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the things that we are tackling quite a bit. Some great examples from different countries. Even we see the post-secondary, talking about post-secondary food. We see even country like China has advanced that file quite a lot. So if China can do it, why can't the rest of the world learn from them?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of these stories. I'm from India. I grew up years and years ago in India, and I left India a while ago. But the government schools had free food. Then why did a country like Canada take 50 years later trying to introduce free food?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of learning that needs to happen. And what I say to the people who are watching my podcast and listening to the podcast is each and every one of you have the power. Because at the end of the day, for most powers of be and decision makers, it is the vote that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And you vote. And you need to actually ask those questions and vote for who is meaningfully going to make a difference.
Wow, that's very impactful in what you're doing and inspiring. So what do you think it's really going to take to achieve zero hunger?
It is political will, as simple as that. There is no ifs and buts about it. The governments really need to make the difference deep down in their heart, not just a lip movement. And that is what's preventing, because I personally do not think there is enough motivation around the world for governments to make that call. Because when we have, especially in Canada, 46% of our food goes to landfill, while 1 in 5 Canadians goes to bed hungry.
Wow.
That makes absolutely zero sense. And we need active advocacy, active policies that's going to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The world has enough wealth to make sure everybody in this world has 2 good meals to eat. Still, we have so many people going hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we touched a little bit before, and I'm going to bring it back because this kind of a very passionate topic for me. Whenever you're talking about hunger and poverty, the first image that you have in your mind is that poor kid in Africa who's sitting by the side of the street and not enough food to eat. And given that continents like Africa, Asia, there are challenges. And there are natural challenges, there are various challenges, economic challenges that creates a food insecurity. But in the developed countries, there is tremendous amount of food insecurity, and nobody wants to talk about it. I was at the Food and Agriculture Organization's summit last year, and there was not a word around the developed countries' hunger. If we don't identify the problem, we can never solve it. Like, for anybody listening and watching this, in your neighborhood, in your street, there are people who's probably next door to you who do not have enough food to eat. They're suffering quietly. And we as a community need to stand up for them and stand up for a better community. I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
Because this is something that has changed my life and what we do currently. So this was in the very beginning of COVID. My kid, she was in junior kindergarten. And till then, I've always said no screens, no screen time. And now, since with COVID, screen time because your school is on screen. That's what you got to do, which is fine. We had to do what we had to do. So I wanted to sit in one of the classes with my daughter and see what does a kindergarten kid do in an online school. Made no sense to me. So I did. And the teacher was amazing. There's no question about it. And after the class was over, the teacher asked, okay, so we are done for the day. What's the plan for the rest of the day? And all the kids who's in my street, I know almost every kid and every parent. And some kid says, oh, I'm going to go to the park and I'm going to go in the backyard and play, and all these lovely topics. And this one kid, I know the kid and I know the parents very well, said, today is the happiest day of my life. So for them, everything is about life. So the teacher said, okay, what are you doing? Happiest day of your life. And he said, today the food bank is open. My parents can go and grab some food, so I don't have to go to bed hungry.
Wow.
So when a junior kindergarten kid, it's their happiest day in their life because the food bank is open, we as a society have failed. And I think that is something that we need to recognize in the developed countries like the US and the Canada and the UK and the France and the Germanys of the world, that this is in our neighborhood. This is right around the corner. And we need to stand up. Gone are the days when we can say that's not our problem. That's not. It is our problem. And it can happen to anybody in a quick switch. So we need to advocate for better policies so nobody's falling through the cracks.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about all the food that goes to waste as well, and how to be more strategic to be able to give that to the people that need it, like the fruits that come out in irregular shapes.
100%.
Like, how do you get those partnerships with farmers or people that are sorting through the produce and be able to distribute that back to the people?
Absolutely. Logistics is a key factor to that. How the farmers, especially in North America now, the farmers are hurt. They don't make enough money. That's why the next generation of farmers are not going back into farming. So from them to take this food and donate it, it's a logistical expense that they don't afford.
I see.
They rather leave it in the field and make it a compost than do that. But I think the bigger conversation, because we see a lot more waste in your fridges and your shelves. And a big factor of that is, this is the bone of my contention, is the best before date or sell by date. That is just a marketing gimmick that causes more food waste. Like, those dates have no rhyme or reason, but they just put it. In Canada, I know there's only 5 items that actually have an expiry date. Out of that, 2 are prescription only. So there's 3 food items only that has got expiry. Rest is all best before. And I'm assuming it's very similar here in the US. So there is no reason. Use your nose, use your eyes, use your taste buds to figure out if it's gone bad, then get rid of it. Otherwise, don't. As simple as that. But I think those are the factors that where the government policies can come in to say that, well, the best before dates are not needed, or expiry dates are the only dates needed. Maybe you put in the manufacturing date if you want to batch it out. But do not encourage people to throw away food, even if they don't afford, because at the end of the day, they don't want the food to be wasted.
Wow.
So I think there are a lot that the governments can do, and it's a political will that needs to happen to make a difference.
And for people watching right now, what would be some things that they can contribute to and help with the Zero Hunger Project?
So first of all, I say get educated on the topic. That is the first and foremost, because it's very complex. I can sit here and easily say in the short time I'm here, oh, we need to fight hunger, but it is not that easy.
Yeah.
So get educated. That's why I'm going to give a shameless plug. Watch my podcast at the Zero Hunger Project. So you're going to have some really amazing individuals talking about it. And in almost every segment we do, we talk about what anybody can do to contribute. I have a book that's also called the Zero Hunger Project. It's available on Amazon, on Indigo, wherever you get your books from, ebook, as well as hardcover, softcover. Pick that book up, read through it if you're able to, because there's some amazing solutions that is in that book. So these are my shameless plugs that I had to give it. But also, as somebody who is just listening to this, I think the key thing that you need to think about is how can you shift that conversations or ask those questions to people of power and making the difference. Is how can they make political and policy difference so people in their communities are not going hungry. I think that is a basic. And of course, if you're able to volunteer at your local food charity, make a donation to your food charity, because that's all how we survive, is through those donations and all. So these are a few things, but get yourself educated on that topic. It is not easy. It's very complex.
Well, Suman, I appreciate you being on Broadcast Your Authority. I love what you're doing with the Zero Hunger Project, and I would love to have you back on at some point too.
Thank you. It'll be a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Broadcast Your Authority, and until next time, we'll see you then.